All right, welcome back in here to Live Now from Fox. I am Andy Mack. One of the most significant days of this landmark social media trial in Los Angeles as Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg taking the stand as they claim that they use social media to addict, obviously deliberately harm children. Let's take you out to Kelly Saberi on what we potentially heard from Zuckerberg today.
Meta chief Mark Zuckerberg in court in Los Angeles Wednesday, testifying in a landmark trial on the impacts of social media on children. The plaintiff is a 20-year-old woman identified as KGM, who says her early adoption of social media led to depression and suicidal thoughts, and accuses companies of deliberately designing their platforms to get people addicted.
Well, if they prevail, this means a lot of future payouts by social media and, well, quite a bit of liability for Mark Zuckerberg.
Today is the first time Zuckerberg has ever had to defend his company in front of a jury. Plaintiff's attorney Mark Lanier questioned him on Meta's strategy, pointing to a 2014 email where Zuckerberg said the amount of time users spent on his platforms was among his biggest concerns. The Meta CEO says they've since shifted their priority to improving the user experience.
I really do think Meta has been, frankly, the leader in trying to address these issues. Now it's going to be left up to a California jury.
Zuckerberg was part of a group of CEOs 2 years ago who testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee on the potential dangers of social media, at one point turning around and apologizing to parents whose children had been harmed.
I'm sorry for everything that you've all gone through. No one should have to go through the things that your families have suffered.
The plaintiff's attorney tried to question Zuckerberg about that apology, but the defense objected. Meta and YouTube are the two remaining defendants in the case, as TikTok and Snap reached settlements last month. The outcome of the lawsuit could determine how thousands of other lawsuits play out. In Los Angeles, Kelly Saberi, Fox Business.
All right, thank you so much for that, Kelly. And obviously a different setting than what we saw Mark Zuckerberg on Capitol Hill, but obviously also people paying attention. And what a circus it was there outside of Los Angeles Superior Court. Walking into the courtroom, you can see there Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg taking the stand today. Let's be joined by someone that was in the room that heard some of this testimony, being joined right now by NPR reporter Bobby Allen. Bobby, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. What were your big takeaways? Did Mark Zuckerberg defend himself staunchly today?
Yeah, so Zuckerberg took the witness stand, and he was getting kind of testy with the plaintiff's lawyer, saying things like, I think you're taking my words out of context. No, I don't remember that email. You're asking me about things I said or wrote 10 years ago. And I think Zuckerberg's message to the jury was, here's a lawyer trying to lawyer me. He's trying to catch me in a gotcha moment, and I'm not going to let him do it. Meanwhile, the plaintiff's lawyer was really trying to show the jury that from the top down at Meta, there was a strategy to find and to addict young people to Facebook and Instagram. And he pointed to evidence of this. You know, one of the internal documents said that Zuckerberg himself was personally interested in getting 11, 12, 13-year-olds, not just on the platform, but getting them to stay there as long as possible. And we all know how and why. Push notifications, likes, the infinite scroll. We all use social media. Those things, the lawyers say, were designed to addict young people.
Yeah, pushing back on the deliberate nature in which they say this is addictive. And of course, Mark Zuckerberg on the stand at a, quote, adverse witness, allowing some of these leading questions. How did that kind of move this testimony along?
Yeah, exactly. And so remember, the center of this case is one woman, as we just heard, a 20-year-old now who's only identified as Kaylee in the legal documents. But, you know, when she was a really young girl, she was saying she was addicted to YouTube and Instagram, specifically these body-changing filters, these beauty filters where you sort of enhance your body and enhance your face on Instagram. And at one point, it was a really sort of dramatic moment. The lawyer said to Zuckerberg, where did you look at any of Kaylee's Instagram posts ahead of the trial? And Zuckerberg said, yeah, some of my staff showed me them. And then 5 lawyers lined up and unspooled this giant 30-foot banner that was a collage of all of these photos of Kaylee using various beautification apps. And the lawyer said, you know, Mr. Zuckerberg, just take a really good look at this. And he just dwelled at this sea of hundreds of photos as the jury looked on.
Yeah, and obviously that is so kind of into the point of what they're saying that you can almost get addicted to this. You can spend so much time on this. And there's been an evolution of Facebook, of Meta, and Zuckerberg certainly changing his site, now only allowing people of the age of 14 or older to be on it. And they kind of go after people that advert those rules as well. Did they speak to the evolution of this? Because other platforms settled. They did not come to trial. Zuckerberg's notably in front of this. The first time he's doing this, he's almost willfully doing this, not settling. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, Zuckerberg, he didn't get into exactly what the safeguards were because most of the testimony was like really drilling down on these old documents. But what he did say in terms of the evolution of his thinking is, all right, guys, let's step back for a second and see if this makes sense. Zuckerberg said, I think there's this misconception that we just want people hooked to Instagram and Facebook. But he says, think about that for a second. If you were hooked and having a bad experience, you would leave for a competitor. So he said Facebook and Instagram have a direct incentive for the experience to be a good one. If everyone who went on Instagram got depressed, people would leave for TikTok. That's the opposite of what Zuckerberg and Meta want. So he says, not only does he care about child safety, he cares about the fundamentals of his business, and preserving those fundamentals means making sure Instagram and Facebook are a safe place for everyone, including children. That was a big part of his defense.
And it's not only what Mark Zuckerberg says, but really how he says it, because there's been plenty of criticism on the mannerisms he has, saying that he's robotic in that way. Did he come across less robotic? And I know there was some lines of questioning about this, how Zuckerberg's almost getting coached in that way to act more human-like.
Yeah, that came up during the trial. That over the course of the deposition and some of the evidence gathering, they found communications showing that staff wanted Zuckerberg to be more human, to be more empathetic, to be less cheesy and less robotic. And here he was very matter of fact. He stuck to the facts. He got combative at times and kind of frustrated, but I think we've all seen Zuckerberg testify publicly, and he's kind of flat. He's kind of stoic. You can't really get a read of his emotions, and he brought that signature Zuckerberg delivery in the courtroom today with a few glimpses of testiness, but overall it was like kind of just sticking to the facts and kind of, not very expressive.
And Zuck obviously talks about how he's usually bad at this. My last question, Bob, before I let you go, because we knew this case, this testimony was going to be very interesting. I want to put this up from Megan Cuniff, legal affairs expert analyst there that we talked to quite a bit in Southern California, saying the judge also talked about no AI glasses with our facial recognition can be worn in the courtroom, saying that if anybody used them to record jurors, you must delete it or you'll be held in contempt, saying this is very serious. What do you make of that moment? Because obviously the judge didn't say that out of nowhere, potentially alerted that by one of the sides. What happened exactly when that moment came about?
That was a head scratcher. We looked around and I didn't see anyone in Meta glasses, but it was announced for a reason. So presumably somebody was there trying to record with Meta glasses or some kind of glasses that had some kind of recording device enabled. We'll see what comes of that. But the judge said, look, if you're recording this proceeding, you will be held in contempt of court. This is really serious. In contempt of court can result in prison time. So she definitely issued a warning to whoever was doing that in the courtroom. But yeah, as of now, Andy, we aren't really sure who that may be.
Yeah, very interesting. And you knew something a little bizarre might happen today, and that might have kind of fit the bill. Bobby Allen, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, your reporting. You're on Live Now.
Thanks, Andy. Take care.
All right, thanks so much.